Welcome to the Market Me podcast with your host, Mike Mall. Each episode of Market Me deconstructs real campaigns for actual businesses to improve their marketing efforts. Mike is the founder of Social Media House and a digital marketing consultant who teaches marketing strategy to executives and their teams from small business to Fortune 500 companies. Let's get started.
On this episode of the show, we're speaking with Jürgen Strauss from Innovabiz podcast. It's also the coaching and consulting business out of Australia.
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah, could have told by the accent. I remember when I was looking everything up, it was the .au online. So I was like, Australia, nice. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's great to be with you, Mike.
So, you are I will call it, I said offline, a seasoned veteran podcaster. You have a ton of episodes. I know it's a big channel for you guys, and you've interviewed some really interesting people. But tell us about kind of the business as a whole beyond the podcast.
Yeah, so the business Innovabiz is all about making marketing human again. And what we mean by that is we kind of help people understand that marketing is actually more than just making a sale or getting a message out into the world. It's actually making a deep connection with your dream client and really caring about them, and then actually taking them on a journey from where they are right now with the pains or the challenges that they might have and the needs that they have that they've come to you for, and then taking them to a state where they've actually addressed those challenges or overcome those challenges or the needs, address the needs with your help. So the marketing actually keeps going afterwards, and that kind of leads into all things such as referrals and testimonials, of course. So delivering the exceptional experience and leading on to testimonial marketing, referral marketing is all part of the marketing mix. And that's what we work on with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, I think you're starting to see a shift. I think the bigger businesses, similar to cruise ships, have a harder time turning, but there's a semblance or a hint of them making this attempt to actually do this thing, connect, build community, build groups. And I think, for bigger companies, they're still in that growing pain. It's still a bit of an awkward thing, but I think the world is starting to make this shift to the place that you guys were already in. Do you feel that that's the case?
I think so. I think that there's a lot of people talking about it. I think the risk is, and I always say this, we have these wonderful tools that automate a lot of things, and there are marketing automation tools, and some of them are absolutely fabulous in what they do. But the risk is that people decide, I can abdicate the entire marketing program to this responder sequence, email sequence where you can build in trees, decision trees, if a person clicks on one link or the other link, and then they get different emails. So you can automate the whole thing. And at some point, they forget about the fact that it's actually a person at the other end of that conversation, and you're a person. So, somewhere along the line, you've got to get that human connection. And whilst the marketing automation tools, there's lots of great ones out there, they should be there to help you spend more time, free up your time so that you can spend more time on building those relationships. And I think there's still a long way to go until people have kind of figured out the balance between those two things.
Yeah. Well, I think where some of those issues arise, just from my perspective, is, a lot of people who are in this space, who are working with similar clients to you, their prerogative is, hey, scale, automate, make it simple. This is, you can do a simple 1, 2, 3 and close business. And I think they're right, but it's also wrong. And I think that's to your point where you guys are going, saying, there is a way to make money and have all these automations, but really, are you, making the impact? I think that's a word that you talk about and think about quite a bit. And are they leaving it on the table by trying to scale?
That's right. And we have we have a 12-step framework of marketing that it's kind of a journey that we take people on, and the 12th step is the one where you look at scale and automation and getting tightening up your systems and so on. And one of the things, I can't remember who to attribute this to, but it struck me at the time. Somebody said to me, you don't automate until you've built the system and built the relationships. And that's kind of the philosophy that we follow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you offer kind of an end-to-end service platform for the people that are coming into your ecosystem: web, content, digital marketing, obviously a lot of the mindset, business infrastructure, making sure that their clients have an experience. I mean, it feels like you have a real 360 offering within the business.
Yeah, that's right. And, we work with a lot of partners that are specialists in different areas, so that we've got access to, for example, specialists in web design, or specialists in mindset coaching, or specific sales coaching. And working together with those allows us to really package this all up as a nice program, and also split it up into the different components of it for those people that feel they need help in just one area.
Yeah, awesome. One thing I'd love to branch off and talk about, obviously you guys have a wildly successful podcast. You've, served some big guests. It's very, from the episodes that I took a look at, it is very value driven, very, you picking the brain of different experts, almost like you were saying, connecting with these people and having access to them. And it feels like it's, helping create these journeys, but also these helpful tidbits of information for people looking for answers. Obviously, do you find that the podcast for you is your biggest marketing channel?
It certainly is one of the biggest marketing channels. Yeah. I feel really privileged to be able to talk to experts in a whole range of different areas, big book authors, or people that are experts in. Yesterday I spoke to someone who's an expert in membership programs and courses, and has a business that just had a wildly successful launch, £1 million in 24 hours. That's a pretty successful launch. And to be able to speak to someone like that and dig into, well, how did you achieve that? What went into that launch that made it so successful? I think, I feel really privileged with that. It's like having an hour's masterclass each time. So we kind of end up doing an hour usually. And then I get to share it with my audience. So it's really cool.
Yeah. And is that something that you recommend or try and mandate for each one of your clients, or is it on a case-to-case basis to determine who of them are going to launch their own podcast, to facilitate growth?
It's on a case-by-case basis. So some people could benefit by podcasting, but don't feel comfortable in doing it. So we kind of explore, well, where's that sweet spot of something that there's not going to be a huge barrier for you to get into that. It's not going to be painful for you to do that, because part of our whole philosophy is that business is actually there to support your lifestyle and the lifestyle that you choose, so that business should actually be fun as part of that philosophy. And if there's something that we're asking you to do that totally goes against your grain, then really that's counterproductive. So it's a case-by-case basis. Some people do better just writing articles and publishing blog posts. Some people really enjoy getting on podcasts and having conversations, or doing solo podcasts and presenting something in an audio format. Others like to get on video. And so it's really just, what makes sense to their audience and what makes sense to them as well.
Absolutely. So for those listening, and for the people that come into your ecosystem who are, excited by the medium, who think it's a great opportunity, as I believe it is, how would you kind of simply walk them through the strategy, just at its kind of baseline? How do you come up with, what is this podcast going to be about? Who am I going to talk to? How do you wrap your head around that?
Yeah. Well, again, we have this 12-step framework for our marketing thing, and I've kind of adapted that to podcasting as well, and it sort of works pretty well because a lot of the initial strategy work is actually very similar to a marketing strategy. So we look at, who am I? What makes me unique as the podcast host? And that self-awareness then carries forward into, well, why am I doing this? And what's my objective? And how am I going to do it? So all of those things, because you could be doing like the Innovabiz show is a conversation, usually with one other guest, sometimes with two. You could do a panel show, you could do a solo show. So we also do a solo show. That's a separate one. So there's different formats, and of course that's informed by the strategy and then the audience. So the second step we look at is who's the ideal audience member, and let's really get to know them, because every bit of content you then put into that podcast should be really addressed to that audience member, that ideal audience member, so that as you build your audience, you're growing a community around that dream audience who probably are your dream customers, and the connection is starting to be established there because they're getting value from you, they relate to you, they start to like you, start to trust you, and then of course that leads on to other things that can happen as a result of that relationship. And then we look at putting together a promotional strategy, because a big part actually of the podcasting is the promotion of the podcast. I think a lot of people say that 20% is actually producing the content in the show and the editing, and 80% is actually promoting it so that you get out in front of a bigger audience. So they're kind of the key elements of it. And then, of course, we've got a strategy for having a pipeline of guests that we've always got somebody to talk to, somebody that's of value to our audience, and how we get those guests in, and also how we show up as a guest on other podcasts like I'm doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it is an interesting kind of 360, and I know for myself anyway, I think about the production of this similar to the way I would a Facebook ad. If I've got an advertisement that's going out to somebody, who is it that I want to see? What information or what can I do to help that person understand a process or build trust or just make their life easier? I think that's like one of the ways I'm wrapping my head around marketing these days is how do you make your prospect's life easier or better in some way? And that's just like such a great way to start that conversation.
Yeah, I really like that approach. And I like the analogy too. So to Facebook ads. So when you're advertising, who's the audience and how do you get their attention?
Yeah. What have you seen as the best methods of marketing a podcast? I know you guys are big on retention, reviews, building that internal growth, like the referral system. Do you find it's really similar to the way you think about the rest of marketing from the podcast side?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. It's a lot of it is around word of mouth. So we ask our guests to help promote their episode in particular, and that generally gets us in front of a new audience each time. We produce a whole lot of social media assets that we share with our guests as well, and that provides a variety of different formats that different people will relate to. So we have just a bunch of quotes that we take out of the episode, and we present those as individual tweets that go up over time. We have longer form posts going up into social media with video clips, with audio clips, with just images. And we also put it up PDFs of a collection of quotes that's kind of like a mini presentation. So different people relate to the different types of content, and that gets us in front of a bigger audience or captures attention from a bigger range of people as well. Then we publish a single blog post for each episode, and that has show notes that go with it. And the show notes are a synopsis of the episode, of the conversation, with some highlights. So it's not a transcript as such, which to me, I mean, we did transcripts in the early days, but to me, a transcript can be a little boring to read. And also it's pretty cumbersome to go through and actually correct it if you're using kind of the automated transcription services, because some of those, particularly with the Aussie accent, some of those are probably only about 90% accurate. So there's a fair bit of correction to do. Sometimes I use some of those for other reasons. And when I read something that I've said, I don't understand it. And I was the one that said it, and I've got no idea what it means. So that's how misleading they can be. So to use transcripts, you do need to really proofread them and do some correction. So what we do is actually produce show notes that's a summary, and probably for an hour's episode, the show notes might be a 5 to 10 minute read, and that gives somebody that prefers to read a good idea of what it's about. Those are the key things.
Yeah. And I saw that you were doing your show notes on Medium, which is an interesting strategy, but you also do them on the website?
We do them on the website, and then we've got automation that sends it to Medium.
Oh, nice.
So Medium allows you to send a copy of the content from your blog, and the way we've set it up, there's an attribution that goes back to the original post, and the way Medium does it is they actually allow that, and Google recognize that as not duplicate content.
Yeah. Yep, that's smart. Yeah, I think that LinkedIn articles has the same rule system with that. Like, I don't think they consider it duplicate, although good luck getting LinkedIn to let you use anything in their API and automatically post anything.
Yeah. I was trying to do some videos that I'd edited with overlays and things today, and couldn't get them to upload. Well, they did upload to LinkedIn, but it wouldn't post, and it didn't tell me what was wrong. So I'm not quite sure whether it's the editing or how the video is constructed, whether it doesn't like it.
Yeah, they're really specific, and I find, even like we're looking for posting software, like a social media posting, like a Hootsuite style thing, and a majority of them either don't support LinkedIn. Or don't support, at least none of them support LinkedIn video. LinkedIn actually doesn't allow you to post video from a third party. You have to post it directly in the platform. So they're a little bit behind in that way. I think I don't know, maybe because it's a Microsoft thing now, they're behind in their decision making, but they are trying to make it. They came out with stories. So, to have stories like Instagram does, but then not be able to post, it's kind of funny, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And so how would you, I guess my last question would be, somebody who's listening to this thinking, wow, okay, I've already been thinking about podcasting. It seems like if we just wrap our head around these couple of things and think about marketing it a certain way, that it might be feasible for us to at least test the waters or try it out. How would you recommend? I mean, you're 300 plus recordings at this point. I'm almost 80 at this point. How do you start? Like, what's the kind of simplest 1, 2, 3 for someone to actually just start and make one episode for themselves?
Yeah. What I suggest is, going through all the strategy parts of why you're doing it and what the desired outcome is and who the audience and so on. But once you've done all that, what I suggest is aim for doing 10 episodes in one hit. Record those, because then you've taken the pressure off yourself. If you do weekly, for example, then you've got 10 weeks worth of content lined up. You can do a big launch. You can focus on promotion in that 10 weeks. You can get to the next 10 weeks of episodes during those 10 weeks. So that's my recommendation. Then if it's a conversation podcast or an interview podcast, that you're doing. Identify 10 people and start small. Don't aim to get, I'd love to get Seth Godin on, by the way, but I still haven't got to that point. So don't aim for somebody high profile, because they're not likely to, unless you know them, they're not likely to come talk to you if it's a new show. So go with people that you know, that can add value to your audience and that you have a relationship with, and that will be happy to come and have a conversation with you. And then start to build your network off the base that you've started there. So that's my recommendation. Go for the 10 people that you know already that you can speak to, or if it's a solo episode, just write 10 episodes that have a nice sequence to them. It might be a series of sequence of steps on your topic, and record those, get them, edit them, and go for the best audio quality you can, and then get it all sorted up, ready to promote and, launch and promote.
Love that. Super helpful. Awesome. Well, I can assure you that Seth is not listening to this show, so that call out will not help you in any way. But good luck. He'd be an amazing guest.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jürgen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insights. And
thanks, Mike.
And I'll link you up in the show notes and everything like that. But where is the best place for people to come find you?
Well, the best place, go and check out my podcast, which is innovabuzz.com, innovabuzz.com, or ZZ in US English. And the other show that I have is talesofmarketingtransformation.com.
And what is that one primarily? That's the solo show?
That's the solo show. I talk about marketing, so it is kind of stories around marketing.
Great. All right. Well, we'll link those up. And again, really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Mike. I really enjoyed it.